Okay, another try. This is apparently the first video that I'm making, and I don't know exactly yet what I'm doing, so I think I'm on my third recording because I don't know what happened to the first two. But hi there, my name is Alex Lambeth. I'm a licensed professional counselor in the state of Texas, and I wanted to introduce myself real quick. I wanted to talk about what counseling is, how counseling can help you, who is ready and should go to counseling and who should not go to counseling and is clearly not ready. Also, wanted to talk about how you can find a good counselor that is a fit for you. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about my specialty and the kind of clients that I work with. Okay, so counseling is pretty much talk therapy. Now, sometimes it's a little bit more than that because there are different modalities, but basically it's all about working through and talking through some of your issues, your concerns, and helping you find solutions. And finding solutions is really a lot of times something that you do on your own because the solution is already in front of you. And a lot of times, us as therapists, we're just kind of like guiding you into this direction. And it's kind of like, oh, wow, why haven't I thought of that before? Well, you actually have. It's already been in there. It's just we kind of had to help you to get there. Then what else? And forgive me if I'm looking to the side, but I do have like notes here, so I'm staying on track. Learning coping techniques, that's another big thing about counseling. When you come to a counselor and you're dealing with a lot of stress, you're getting easily overwhelmed, you may have anxiety, you may have depression. All of those things can be managed. And for the most part, what we're looking at is positive coping techniques and coping techniques that work for you. Just because something works for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So it probably is where we're going to suggest different things and then try out what works for you. And then when you come back the next session, we're going to talk about what worked and what didn't. And then we're going to add on from there. So for example, coping techniques, one of the ones that I really love using a lot and I feel like helps a lot of my clients is breathing techniques. Because when you're stressed out and overwhelmed, all you need to do is just take a minute or two at minimum time. A little longer would be better, but where you just basically stand up or go outside or sit in a area where you have peace and quiet and you just really concentrate on your deep breathing, and it can really help you calm your mind and calm down. So that doesn't work for everybody, but it works for a lot of people. And so working on finding the right fit for you with different coping techniques is a lot of times what counseling really has integrated. And then counseling a lot of times is working on past issues, working through issues that happened in the past, possibly getting closure, moving on from something that you're really stuck on. Could be a traumatic event. It could be something that's just eating you up inside, and it really just needs to be you need to move on from it. You need to go and live in the here and now and focus on being happy and living here and planning on your future versus being stuck in the past, because the past is gone and you can no longer get anything from being stuck there. So those are a lot of times issues that come up during counseling and that we work through. And again, I'm touching just on a few here to kind of give you an idea. Then I want to talk a little bit about who should go to counseling and who should not. Let's start about who should not go to counseling, because that's my favorite. As a counselor, I do get calls from family members. Bless their heart. I know they mean well. And a lot of times, the counseling for that person could be very appropriate, but not when that person isn't ready. So I always feel it's important that if I meet with someone, I speak to them up front, because I want to make sure they're actually ready for counseling. Just because a family member tells you, you know what, you really need to counseling, that doesn't mean that you should go or that you're ready for it. It could be that you would benefit from it, but you're not ready yet. Or it could be that you actually don't need it and you got some other issues going on that maybe your family member doesn't understand, and they maybe just need to leave you alone. But Basically, when you go to counseling, you want to make sure you're able to open up, that there is not a wall, because you're going in there and you're talking about pretty important things in your life. And when you're not ready in there, basically, you're paying the counselor a lot of money for just sitting there and not saying a whole lot. And that's sort of like not the point of counseling, right? And also, you shouldn't go to counseling because somebody told you of a friend who knows a counselor and they give a good deal and you contact them. Well, you don't know anything about that counselor. So that's not really how you should start getting into counseling, because you're getting a good deal or anything like that. So now I want to talk about who should go to counseling. If you're struggling with things and you feel like you have reached a point in your life where you need to move on and fix things and move into a more positive direction, there's a chance you might be ready for counseling. You might be thinking about this for a few weeks, maybe for a few months, maybe even a year or two or longer, and you've just been hesitant about it. And sometimes this has to do with our society, with the stigma that's attached to mental health, and it could also be a cultural thing on how you grew up. The matter of fact is, mental health and having depression, anxiety, those kind of issues is just like any other illness. So, for example, if you have diabetes and you need insulin, that the insulin is what helps the diabetes. So, if you have depression, anxiety, then the counseling is helping that. So there's no shame in that, but I think a lot of times that's where the stigma is. But when you're ready, you pretty much know it. Also, if you are able to make the time commitment, because counseling is something, usually in the beginning at least, you're going to meet once a week to kind of, go over what happened last week. You're setting some goals for the next week. You may have some homework. You're going to talk through everything that's going on. And so that's kind of important that you do have that commitment. Now, so I talked about reasons why not, reasons why you should, and then I want to talk a little bit about finding a good therapist. Because the worst thing that can happen is you're like, I'm ready now, and then you're going to end up seeing a counselor and you're going to have such a negative experience that you're not ever going to go back to see another counselor. And this sort of happened to me about 25. No, I wasn't quite 25, 22, 3 years ago. I saw a counselor for the first time in my life, and I went to one session only, and I never returned. I felt like I felt like she wasn't understanding me. I felt like that this lady she wasn't really interested in what I had to say. And when I left, I actually sort of felt like, I had opened up about some of my problems, and I had regrets about that because I felt sort of like judged. Even so, she didn't flat out say anything. She was just taking notes the entire time. So it's really important that when you go to a counselor, there is 3 really important factors that need to happen in order for you to have a good experience and actually be successful. The first one is that you click with that counselor, with that therapist. If you're not comfortable with who you're meeting, and remember, again, you're open up about your most intimate things, about concerns that you have in your life that you don't talk to anybody else about. So you want to make pretty darn sure when you walk in there, yes, I am comfortable with that person. So, for example, to me, it's very important if I would work with a therapist that we're meeting on eye level, and I don't feel like I'm being talked down to. Not that counselors do that, but I think, a lot of times that feeling can be emphasized, and really being able to connect, make a human connection. Of course, there are professional boundaries there, and there should be, but it is a very intimate relationship that you're building, a very trustful relationship that you're building with your therapist, and it's important that you trust them. Secondly, you want to make sure that the person that you're meeting with has experience in the area that you're needing help with. So, for example, if you have PTSD and you're contacting a therapist because somebody told you this is a great therapist, and you end up calling this person to find out that actually this person specialized working with people with eating disorders. Well, you don't have an eating disorder, so that may not be the best fit. It may still be a great therapist, but you really should be working with someone who specializes and has experience in the areas that you're needing help with. And the third most important factor is, and I think a lot of times clients don't think about this, is that we as therapists are all very, very different. When we go to graduate school, we learn about so many modalities. And when I'm talking about modalities, it's like different type of counseling modalities, forms that are out there that we can use. Just to name a few, there is Adlerian, Jungarian, existential, Gestalt, mindfulness, strengths-based, solution-focused, EMDR, person-centered, CBT. So it probably don't tell you a whole lot unless you're familiar with all of this. But basically, there is a lot of different modalities, and a way for you to figure out if this is going to be a good fit for you, and really in all three categories, is talk to the person first. Ask for a consultation call. This is the most important thing. And I really think most therapists want to have that consultation call because it's benefiting you both, that you are a good fit for one another. So this is where you're going to find out, oh, okay, she specializes in depression, and this is exactly what I'm dealing with, depression, so I can talk to her. And then also, so what kind of therapy do you offer? And they may not tell you the exact terms because most people are not familiar with them, but they can tell you sort of like how they approach things. And that's pretty much what those different modalities are, different approaches. And so that gives you an idea if you're going to be comfortable with that. In addition to talking about the specialties and how they do the counseling, and if you're going to be a good fit for them, you're also going to find out where exactly they're located, or maybe you're able to meet online. And then most importantly, talk about billing as well. Do you use insurance? Do they accept insurance? Are they only private pay? What are their fees, et cetera, et cetera? Because all of that you need to know up front, because it's not going to do any good if you find somebody you really like, but then you may not be able to afford them because they don't carry in the insurance that you have. Okay, last, I want to talk real quick about what kind of therapy I do, what modalities that I use, and then also pretty much, I lost my train of thought. Okay, I work with highly sensitive people. Highly sensitive people often struggle from depression and anxiety. And I work with those people because I am such a person myself. So when a person is highly sensitive to depression and anxiety, sometimes other people around them don't recognize it because they can be very high functioning. So a lot of people would look at me and say, "What? You got anxiety? You got depression?" Well, yes, I do, but I know how to manage it well, and I also are able to teach others who struggle with this how to manage it well, because I have personal experience in this, and I'm not the kind of counselor who doesn't disclose. Now, of course, I'm not going to tell you about my entire life, but I am going to disclose for several reasons to make you feel comfortable, that you're understanding we really truly are meeting at eye level, but also that you understand that it is possible to work through those issues, and I can do it. So if I can do it, you can do it. I also feel like it helps build rapport because you're giving me a lot of information about your life. And if I don't give you anything of mine, I feel like that may not be 100% fair. Again, I'm not sharing my life story with you, but about the issues that you're working on, if I feel like I have personal experience with that and I feel like it's helpful, I will definitely bring it up. Also, I help people that go through life transitions, and life transition can be graduating from school, getting married, having kids, giving birth, oh my goodness, it could be a promotion or losing a job. It could be losing a loved one. That's a really, really tough one. It could be you having an accident and maybe acquiring a disability, or a family member acquiring a disability, or you're dealing with a chronic pain. All of those things affect your life, and some of them are life transitions. And I help people to work through those life transitions. I also work with working professionals in high-pressure jobs. High-pressure jobs means people that work under very tough deadlines, that have a lot of responsibility piled up on their plate, that have to make a lot of difficult decisions, put out a lot of fires as they come up, and also have to problem solve constantly. And those jobs are tough. And there's a lot of us out there nowadays working in those kind of positions. Could be doctors, could be police officer, could be nurse, counselor, teachers. We are all often in those kind of jobs, and that can literally starting to affect our family life, and it can affect us to a point where we're not feeling good about ourselves anymore, and where we're burned out. And I do help people with those kind of struggles. Anyway, I did actually enjoy making this video, surprisingly. I was very paranoid about it, but I feel actually pretty good. Please go ahead, once my son, I have a son, he's going to put all links on there, and whatever you need to do to like, share, and go on my page and all of this stuff, what you're supposed to be doing, please do that. I don't know if I will do a weekly podcasts, but I probably will try to do at least every other week. I will try to talk about different kind of mental health issues. I will share some coping techniques. I will also answer questions. So if there's some stuff coming up and you want to put this on the bottom and I see it, I'll be more than happy to talk about those kind of things during the next podcast that I'm making, or video cast. I don't even know what you call it. But anyway, it was fun. Thank you for your time. Bye.